Hey family, what's going on, good girls gone goddess? I want to invite you to this edition of our weekly G-Spot Live, where we are prepping for the monthly masterclass, where we are engaging love, sex, and money feminine strategies in our monthly masterclass on the third Thursday in a separate group for only a small love offering. So, but big contribution. So I'm taking a moment to invite some of you to our time. Facebook now has it where you have to be a little bit more manual in the invitation. Made it a little harder, a little more challenging, I should say. So that's okay. We won't be defeated by challenges. And I'm definitely gonna wait until a few folks join us in this class, because in this session, because I do have some things that I want to share. Thank you to everyone who sent love notes or text messages, phone calls, when you saw that there was a little something going on in my family and didn't know what at the time. And then those of you who have seen that we had a loss in the family. Thank you so much for your love and for your calls. And that might be a little bit of a backdrop for some of what I'm sharing, because I definitely have been reflective. Death makes you think, but I won't stray too far from our theme of the Power of the P series that we've been nurturing in here on Wednesdays, but then we go in deeper on Thursdays. Y'all with me? So those of you who are in the room, just let me know you're here. Let me know you're here. I'm going to talk to you today about SheMotions. So I'm just waiting for a few folks to join. I might have to edit this out later. And if you're already saying hello and all that good stuff, thank you for your notes. Still inviting, because that's what they're making me do now these days. All right, hey y'all, that's enough invitations. I can't see the screen when I'm actually inviting, so I'm going to start off with just the foundation, because I want you to know that what I'm sharing with you is real, is true, is not made up. When we start talking about the woman's relationship to her mother, and why sometimes it's it looks like we're having a difficult time manifesting, or in some cases manifesting in some areas of our life with great ease. That is what we have been. Last month we focused a lot on our relationship with men. And this time we're going to look at our mamas, our men, our mamas, and our money. It's an ongoing theme that shows up for us, but a lot of times we will ignore the ministry, the invitation for healing. We'll ignore a lot of these different elements that are already speaking to us in our world, in our life, right? And so that's what I'm going to go in a little deeper with you on today. So here's a little bit from the same beautiful mentor of one of mine, more remote now. And this is from Dr. Christiane Northrup again. And she says, everything that goes on around us and everything that happens to us during these formative years. I thought I saw a message. creates a biochemical imprint in the area of the brain called the orbital frontal cortex. Orbit stands for eye, and frontal stands for frontal lobe. And this is the brain center. This brain center is critical for maintaining a stable mood and having healthy relationships. It gives us the capacity for empathy, intuition, emotional communication, and the ability to relate to self and others. Its growth, communication, and development are highly influential and influenced by the quality and intensity of attention and care the child receives. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to go now into a little bit of a story. So, thank you, Nina, for your marvelous referral and enthusiasm about the spaces that we've created for women to do their work in Good Girls Gone Goddess and continue to grow forth in Goddess. Because let me tell you, when you're magical, when you're looking to manifest, you cannot make this stuff up. So check this out. Here I am. We're ready to look for a new home, my husband and I. Y'all with me? So I am in manifestation mode. I'm focusing on what it is that I want. And so I was so pleased with my last agent that, I went right back to my agent. And then she referred me to someone else. And so we, it was a little backwards and forwards trying to get her on the telephone, to get the agent that she had referred on the telephone. Lo and behold, I get on the telephone with the woman and I tell her what it is that I need, what it is that I'm looking for, and, the timeline and all of that. And she's like, I got you covered. No problem. Before we get ready to get off of the phone, she says, is this the coach from Good Girls Gone Goddess? And I was like, yeah, because I had never had that happen before. And she was like, oh my God, I just watched your live and I am so excited. I thought it was you. I'm so looking forward to it. So shout out to Lori, who has come on board to help me look for something. But you never know. That was the first sign that, of manifestation. Let me tell you, we teach the goddesses to celebrate everything in Juicy. And so that's one of the things, that was a sign. And we go further with those kinds of signs when in teaching in the Juicy space a little bit more about that. So that was a signal. So we went out yesterday to look at 2 houses. First house was a dump. That happens in life, right? You go out, you go for what you want. You may start dating. You may even start raising your children. And the first experience is rough. It's not exactly what you want, not what you wanted to create, but it's in the ballpark. So we like, nah, we at first we were saying all these things that we could do with this space. And then we're like, that's not it. So we go on to the other one and come up this beautiful long driveway. And this house immediately was like screaming, oh yeah, I remember this one, because we had gone through a list. Long story short, we go through the house. That's the house. We feel the energy of this particular house. Like, this is perfect. Everything that we both envision for the kind of space that we want, both for ourselves to entertain family and to host some events and some other things. So I woke up this morning and I had a message that, that there may be some challenges with getting in the house just because of the specs that different owners have different speculations. So I'm using my story. If you're just coming in, using my story. So to let you know, I'm in the manifestation game with you too. And I'm going somewhere with how deep it goes. A lot of times we discount and we disbelieve this whole metaphysics thing. We disbelieve the laws of the universe. We disbelieve in our own ability to create our own reality. And so, on to the next thing. As an entrepreneur, you always have another thing on your list. So I woke up to the news that, okay, it may be a little difficult. We might be able to get it, but it may be a little bit more difficult because you are an entrepreneur. So there's certain things that's going to be needed, yada, yada, yada. So I felt a little discouraged because I had gotten my hopes up. And, you know, one of the things in terms of manifesting is to be able to know what it is you desire without becoming attached to it. Well, within 24 hours, I'm attached because I'm already like looking at all kind of things. And so is my husband. And so I felt like, okay, you know, was that too good to be true anyway, that it would be that easy? Come on now. How many times that has come up? That definitely has come up for me in love. I'm talking about SheMotions today, y'all, because now I'm going somewhere with everything that's going on for me, because I want you to be listening for what's going on for you when you're looking to manifest, when you're talking about you can't afford it, when it's a stretch, when you are looking to create the love that you want, when you are miscreating in relationships, when something has a hold on you, okay? Because SheMotions, you know, let's look at this, because I want you to look at it, because I want you to be able to trace how it relates to you, right? All right. So I already said that. So I'm on to the next thing this morning, right? I'm on to the next thing. Get a phone call. We're talking about that next thing. And, as we were talking about the next event and that type of thing, all that's on my mind really is what I need to do to manifest what it is I desire. Because when I get focused, I really get locked into something. Keyword locked. And as my sister and I was sharing something, I told her what I opened up and I said, here's what I'm really focused on. You know, sometimes when we're relating to other people, you need to sometimes communicate. And so I opened up and I said to her, I said, I am so focused on this right now. Like, this is the priority. That's less of a priority for me. And here's what I can do. Here's what I can't do. Ownership, right? I'm communicating with ownership. And she said, I know how you feel. Yeah, that is a priority. We talked about something else. And then she said, yeah, well, you know, I have some resources. She said, I have some resources. I might be able to share. I might know somebody that has a place, or, you know, a landlord that has some places, you know, because I'm also open to Baltimore County, you know, all of this stuff, right, that I'm talking about. So in that moment, I was listening to her just rattling off these resources that she might have. And Spirit said, my holy I am says, see, this is what happens when you don't share. All right, we're about to go somewhere. We're about to go higher. We're about to go higher. Because as an entrepreneur, baby of the family, who is a recovering black sheep or believes in being a black sheep, mind you, I've had things on my mind for days, because the way that my cousin was found was was rather tragic. However, you know, it was embraced by my family later, and hearing my mother, how disturbed my mother was, and not even just disturbed, hysterical, that was more tragic to me even than the news, because I've grown to understand that death is a gateway. And even though it's shocking to us when people leave the planet, usually it's our human emotions and unfinished business that makes us even more attached, or our emotional connection to the other person. And so for days, I'm checking in with myself, because I'm feeling very at peace with this after I realized my family was okay, communicated with everyone. And if you're just coming in, I've already given the sequence of different things that I'm looking to manifest, and the things that were happening in my mind. I'm illustrating for me so that you can listen for yourself to look at your own SheMotions, okay? what's yours, what's theirs, and sometimes what you cannot even see. So then I taught, and my sister says to me on the other line, all these resources as I'm looking for homes, right? And I was in that moment, I thought about things that, how many times I got ready to manifest something and I did it on my own. Oftentimes, or at least started out doing it on my own, but it was my connection to other people, whether it be a coach, a mentor, a prayer partner, my tribe, that I said what I was experiencing, what I was going through. It could be a cold, it could be a sore throat. Some of you have been used. If I say I'm not feeling good or something, you all are on it. Y'all are inbox me. You will like here, and it's people who don't even typically respond to the post, but for some reason, as one who is used to leading and doing so much, I caught myself in that moment of sharing with my sister. I was able to see something that I want to share with you all today, and why the womb connection matters, and when it comes to manifesting or in your relationship. Some of us manifest effortlessly, or there's some times we manifest effortlessly and there's other times we struggle when it comes to certain things. Why is that? So, in that moment, I realized you hadn't told everybody what, you hadn't told your core tribe what you're doing, because other womb women can hold space for you. And a lot of times what makes us shut down, even when we are in this work of transformation and spirituality, what makes us hold on so tight to what it is that we're looking to manifest in our life. I had to ask myself that in that moment. And I was like listening to her give me these resources, and she said, yeah, I told her, I said, well, look at that. I said, look at you already blessing me. And she said, yeah, she said, I know what it is when you are looking to manifest and you just start doing it on your own. She said, a lot of times for me, she owned it. She didn't say anything about trying to teach me. She said, for me, meaning we're having a conversation, sharing, we're being vulnerable with each other. And she said, oftentimes it's to protect I've been disappointed so many times. And she said, so you start protecting yourself from disappointment. When she said that, it hit me in my heart. And I didn't know how I was going to teach this message fully. It had been marinating in me probably since last week. And I knew that in the third Thursday in our masterclass series, that we're going to deal with our manifestation, our men, our mother, and our money. That's where we consistently have patterns. And so I looked at the alignment of what's happening. You know that the sun is in Scorpio, the moon is in Cancer, and Pisces is another alignment, but basically it's a trine. All water signs are trine right now, so all women are going to feel their emotions even more. But not only are you going to feel the emotions, you're going to feel it deeply. It's going to take you to uncover some things. And so I had been checking in on myself to say, how are you feeling about this death? How are you feeling about not going home? Are you okay? And there's another aspect that's happening with my family. Now that's when I started to feel the pull on my spirit. And I want to get real transparent with you today, because sometimes when you think that your family should be coming together is sometimes when you learn more about what's held underneath the surface, right? Come on. I know I'm not the only one. For yourself even. And I don't know if you all have heard me talk about my story of feeling like the black sheep. and that type of thing. So very early, I learned, had a relationship with doing a lot of things on my own, because in my mind, I couldn't trust certain people even that were close to me, in my mind, early on in my life. And so when she said disappointment, the first place that I went to was the little girl with the broken heart. The broken heart that started between her mother and her daddy. The little girl who could remember the times of waiting for daddy to pick her up from home for the weekend and not showing up. That was the beginning of me. I can remember that being the beginning of me having, at the moment, having emotional breakdowns, but then after that, learning how to control it, to control my emotions. Then, of course, I thought about my mother, of not feeling like I really could ask her for anything, because she always wanted to teach you how to survive, how to get it for yourself. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. Because I'm in a season, a harvest season, where for me, this is a season for me. You got to know your chart, your astrology chart. If you hadn't had a reading with me, this is when knowing your chart helps, is when the seasons change, or whenever you're looking to manifest something. And so I immediately then thought about this positioning with the stars right now, with these planets being in a trine, particularly Scorpio, which is very intense energy, and Cancer is very watery and emotional. And so I thought about all this that was going on. And mind you, I don't know about you. Tell me if I'm by myself, because right now I'm not seeing any of you responding. Usually y'all say hello when you walk in. When you come in, or you have comments by now. So I don't know if it's a Facebook delay, but tell me if I'm by myself. Sometimes I am moving so fast, and I'm managing so many different aspects of my business, my household, my self-care, that I have to catch up to what I'm really feeling. And in that moment, I was able to see what was mine and what was theirs. And if you are an empath, sometimes you are processing in your energy your stuff, your mama stuff, your family stuff, and not to mention any deep-seated beliefs that you have in relationship to love, sex, and money. And particularly when it is pulling on your resources to believe and to have faith in what it is that you are looking to do, particularly when you're going to the next level. And I was able to see myself first, all the way to the little girl. And then I started to see, you'll see on my Instagram, I started posting pictures of drums. Because I saw this quote, and I'm going to post it later. Later, I didn't know why. I'm just thumbing and listening to myself. And I saw this thing that said, they tried to silence the African drum just like they tried to silence women. Sometimes, sisters, we have so many waves of emotions going on beneath the surface that when we get ready to make a move in terms of manifesting, one of the reasons we get drowned or feel like we're being pulled is because there's so many currents underneath the surface of the water that you cannot see. And if you're not willing to do your work, if you're not willing to dive into your own waters, thus the reason I created Juicy Spirit. If you're not willing to do your work, you'll just see the water on the surface level doing this, but underneath is a current, or sometimes it's a current like this that will pull you under. And I was so proud of myself, and I'm sharing this with you because In the moment, I had to take a visit to the disappointed, brokenhearted little girl, to the teenager, young adult who believed she was the black sheep, to the woman who has always danced to the beat of her own drum. Well, let me go back to the woman who conformed in order to be accepted and belong, both in my own family and in culture and religion when I felt like I didn't fit there. And then to a woman who started to dance to the beat of her own drum and became the butterfly through my own rebirth story. To the teacher, minister, coach who knows better, but sometimes there are moments when you can be around so many people who have normalized pathology, even in your bloodline. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. And they make you feel like you are the one that's crazy. Well, I shouldn't say they make you feel like that, but it's easy to go there for a moment to think that you're the one that's odd and off. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So I have loved ones who have strong opinions. I come from a family of strong women and that type of thing. And sometimes there's this tendency to say, shh, don't say nothing. Let me tell you what happened, but don't say nothing. And I thought about the Me Too campaign and how many times women have been told to be silent. Shh, don't say nothing. Don't shame the family. Shh, don't say nothing. They'll know I told you. Shh, don't say nothing. It'll rock the boat. Shh, don't say nothing because we don't want no trouble. Shh, don't say. How many of you have received? Shh, don't say nothing. Why you bring that up? Don't even bring it up. But yet all of the talking happens all around the real issue, around the real problem. And then when we look at the stats in African American families, in low income families, in women-led families, if we look at the stats, we think that it's an income problem. We think that it is all racism. But many of us are functioning in family patterns and family pathology that we continue because we don't want to be the oddball out. And so here you are carrying other people's water. You're carrying other people's water. So how do you begin to know what's yours? What's a belief system that you have adopted that no longer serves where you want to go, what you're looking to manifest? In this case, we're talking love, sex, and money. How do you begin to look into what's yours? What is something you inserted in the place of what was missing for you in your life, or what was an unmet need? Because some of us, we don't look at when we say what's missing, you think, well, I had everything. They did everything for me. And so when we look at what's missing, we tend to think of material things. But unmet needs can happen in the space of just being unique. I don't care if you come from a family with 5 brothers and sisters. Each one of you all have your own unique fingerprint. And so therefore, how many mothers have been trained in behavioral psychology to be able to meet the individual needs of one child that might be a visual learner, one child that might be an audio learner, the other one may be tactile, the other one may be visual. And do you understand? Everyone is different. Some of them have blended. How do you meet the needs? And so when you say unmet needs, it is not a condemnation on your mother or your father, but you have to be able to dive into the waters. And then your lifeboat is not, or your life jacket is not always in your own strength. Sometimes it's somebody in the water said, come to me. I hold your hand. You paddle. I got you. I'm going to pull you. You paddle in the back and I'm going to pull you until you learn how to swim. And that's what we do for each other when we start getting the therapeutic support that we need, when we start to do the mind, body, spirit investments in ourselves, when we start to take some risk outside of our comfort zone and what we know around our money. And then when it comes to matters of the heart, that we step outside of the programmed expectations that my love has to look like my sister's love, or my love life has to be approved by the church, or my behavior as a woman needs to look like what would be blessed by the God that you've been taught by somebody else. Because these SheMotions begin to show up when we get ready to move forward, and we can't understand what's the pull on my spirit. Why do I feel so heavy on the inside? Why is it that I'm feeling this? I know better. I know this intellectually. I read this book. Man, look how thick it was. I read this book. I did the homicide. I have a coach. I'm going to get another coach. I'm going to do this. Because as women, we are secular beings. We have a cycle for a reason. And the biggest indicator of our womanhood is that we have a moon cycle. Well, baby, the moon is always changing. While it's sitting in Cancer right now, it's getting ready to change again. It's going to make another shift. So most of the time, the feelings that we have, they came to pass. And at a certain point, the water might do this. And then we begin to float. And I have a lot of nerve to talk about this, because I don't have a whole lot of water in my chart, but I have a whole lot of planets positioned in water. I have a whole lot of heavy duty planets positioned in heavy duty deep water. Not to mention. I say this because in the moment of processing my own self, even in preparation to come and share about our relationship between manifestation and our womb and the wombs that we come from, ministry started to happen in me, because there was a lot going on. And I was trying to compartmentalize it. I have the things that's happening in my family over here. And I felt some kind of way about some of these things. And then there were things happening in my household luckily, I have a mastermind partner in my husband. And so I'm feeling the weight and the pressure of that. But why? Why am I feeling the weight and the pressure? Why am I carrying it as weight and pressure? And then there are other projects that I'm managing and other things that I'm looking for. And so, because I've been trained to be linear sometimes and compartmentalize, I have to retrain my own brain. Now, if you're just now coming in, I'm going to read this for you again. What Dr. Northrup says is that everything that goes on around us and everything that happens to us during these formative years creates a biochemical imprint in the area of the brain called the orbital frontal cortex. Orbit stands for eye and frontal stands for lobe. Basically, in its growth and development, are highly influenced by the quality and intensity of attention and care the child receives. It starts to talk about the wiring between our emotional and our physical health, and when our emotional needs that are not being met, because how we choose partners oftentimes is basically from our unmet needs. And so our partner a lot of time is a mirror of something that's happening in the waters. The thing that's happening in our money, usually it's because of what's happening in the water. The thing that's happening in our love life, our orgasm, our body, it is with the woman, there is nothing, because we are circular and secular. And so everything is connected to everything. And so how do you look at everything being connected to everything with this high and mighty spiritualized concept? But when it's time to do the work, we refuse to make the connection, resist making the connection, because we sometimes want to protect the lie. Oh, Lord, have mercy. And that's where my spiritual anointing, where my head, the spirit and the energy that sits on my head began to say, this is not what I had called you and anointed you to do. You don't protect lies. So that's why it's uncomfortable for you to watch certain things happen sometimes, and people, an empath has an internal lie detector on the inside. Sometimes an empath may not know where they're feeling and why they're feeling what they're feeling, but when they come in contact with that thing, if they have enough courage, this is why it is important for us to understand that when we think we are protecting other people, a lot of times we are selling out ourselves, our anointing, and what we're called to do, because we're afraid to speak to the bloodline. Too many people say, shh, don't say nothing. Girl, I didn't tell you that. You don't know that. And if you are anointed with a head that believes in liberty and justice and you protect the lies in the family, people who walk around, sometimes your family members are the ones, they won't like your posts on Facebook. You go and you speak and you go do these different things. They're not necessarily the ones. And baby, let them find out that you having a difficulty. And they see your posts because they call you on the telephone. I saw you posted such and such. Well, really? I didn't even know you saw my post. Or you get a text message. Come on now. I know that there are some of you who won't post certain things because you're on Facebook with certain people. And let's talk about work. And so how many of us are conditioned to keep up appearances while we know what our desires are? Well, while we know what the matters of the heart are. And you are the one that's called to speak strength to power. Because that is a power that that will have some control over you. We protect family lies. That's why we protect Santa Claus and we protect the Easter Bunny, because I don't want my child to not have what the other children have. That's the beginning of conditioning the mind and the household and the energy for lies. I know it's not real. Now you go out, you work hard. You whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever it is, and you protect the lie. And then have the nerve sometimes to turn around and question somebody else when it comes to witchcraft. And many of us are working black magic on ourselves and on the penis that we make love to, and on other people in our household. We're working black magic in the name of Jesus, in the name of Allah, in the name of Buddha, in the name of the universe. We're working black and don't even know it. But yet we judge it. But we participate in it. Because we're not authentically showing up to process the current, to ask for the support. Now, the good news is when you do get wet, when you do dive into your own waters and find out that you were already swimming. You may not have known how to do a certain kind of stroke, because when you start going to the beach and talking to surfers and divers, they give you a different type. That's what your coach does, your mentor does an elder does. They will tell you, okay, well, yeah, when you go out, see, because the waves come in this way, in this part of the ocean, and don't go too far this way. And even with boating, Because see, boating, and it applies to other parts of our relationship with admiralty law, which we can find in our court systems, which we can find in even in our churches, but mostly for any of the things that operate in government, it's run by admiralty law. That's why you start off with a birth certificate. And and you start to sign and volunteer in a system that you now have to be licensed to be a civilian, to have civilian privileges, not knowing that you have an option. But your mother didn't know that she was signing over her parental rights basically to the government. So that's why when something happens in your household, the authorities can come in and determine whether you are fit or unfit, because basically the government is your surrogate. Oh, come on now. I'm just saying, we don't oftentimes, our mothers didn't know what they were doing. They didn't do it willingly. They didn't know. They were lied to by a system that lied to them. They were lied to by theology that lied to them. And so now lies is the normal. It's the normal. And so now when you come into your family teaching, talking truth, when you come into your tribe of girlfriends that you've been shoo-shooing with, when you come around a situation and you are the daughter that is awakened, you are the womb that somebody prayed to wake up. You are the womb. It may not have been your mother. It could have been your grandmother. It could have been an aunt, a great auntie. It could have been your great-great-grandmother. But somewhere you were connected to that womb. Oh, let me calm down a little bit, because I ain't trying to yell at you or nothing. I'm just getting real passionate because I'm speaking over my life while I'm talking into yours. You are the one. I am the one. But we've been conditioned to look for somebody. And it starts very, very early. And then we do the same thing. Even when a marriage, a friendship, a work relationship has to end, even that you can bless with your SheMotions. Even when it's not you can recognize that it's not your stuff. You can bless it with your SheMotions. Why? How? Those are good questions. Because even if it came to an end, it's not a matter of win, lose, or failure. How many of you have lost everything only to acquire much, much more, or willingly walked away from having? Many of us in this group have been divorced and had the house, the luxury vehicle, and have the status and have all of the things. And because we were out of integrity with who we are and what we deserved or what we believe we deserved or whatever the case may be, at some point we say it's not worth that. It's not worth, I'm worth more than that. And you walk away from something or it walks away from you. Now you can spend time being stuck on why it left, how it wasn't right, or why you left, or why you haven't left, or you can get present and understand what this is saying. What she says is there is an imprint in the formative years that is made on who we are and who we think we are and what we believe about ourselves. In fact, she says the information in this area processes how your mother feels about you, is then transferred to the rest of the body and all of the bodily organs. You know, there's a generation of children after generation, I think I'm Generation X if I can remember right, that a lot of women stop having children because they start talking about, I cannot afford them. So children now are seen as an expense, and decisions are definitely being made based on the expense. And even when sometimes, I know I've done it before, they said, go take a young man to the store and show him the price of a box of condoms, and take him then down over to the baby section and show him the cost of diapers, and add up how many diapers generally a woman has to go through per week, and show him the reason for birth control. Sounds like good motherwit, right? But what do we do with the programs that have us in a fear-based reality of struggle and strain and stress around money, around relationships? So when we offer that caution, what happens to us? What happens to the abundance? What happens that everything you need has been provided for? What happens to when our families had less than we have today, and they were able to do more? And I will close with this. It goes right back full circle to what happened in that conversation with the sister who shared resources. The way that the magic happened, where the real estate agent just showed up and happened to be a member of Good Girls Gone Goddess. What happened in our manifestation when we're willing to take our head and our hand off of it? Do we believe in the alchemy of ourselves as women in terms of manifesting the power of the P? Because the power of the P is, as you can see, I've been teaching this series now for 4 months. And every week, it is no lack in terms of looking at the layers of the power of the P. Pussy is the lowest vibrational form to look at your womanhood. But when we start to elevate it beyond that, look at the time here. When we go beyond that and understand that it's a portal for us. And it's a portal that will rebirth us over and over and over again. And we will emerge transformed. But are we willing to go through the labor that it takes to rebirth our own self? SheMotions. And so I shared my story at the beginning so that you can do your own process of looking at what's yours. I shared mine. Look at what's yours, and then look at what's theirs. And if you need any support with looking at what's yours, your universe, your world is already giving you feedback. And it's okay to not want to recreate what you see in your family. But it is going to take some ovaries to be a stand-up woman at the times where you want to sit down at the table because it's familiar, because it's comfortable, because comfort food is still being served. When I had my emotions, to show you our relationship between food, my husband asked me, well, baby, what do you want me to cook for you? What I said, I think I want some comfort food. He said, why don't we have some other kind of food rather than comfort? He said, because we're looking to get out of a comfort zone. And I thought about that thing in comfort food and our relationship. So that means that when we're looking for comfort food, even we're looking outside of ourselves because we're looking to be comforted somewhere in ourselves. But when it's time for us to manifest, sometimes we have to remove food. Sometimes we have to shake up and put in some green foods to manifest the green life, the green money. Or in my case, it's a little bit of gold money too. A little bit of gold coins and gold and ounces and some Bitcoin and some cryptocurrency, Ethereum, Litecoin. So in my case, it's not just green money. So that means that I have to diversify my diet mentally, emotionally, and physically so that it can line up with what it is that I'm looking to manifest. I thought that was so powerful when he said that because, of course, I was in that vulnerable place. But if you've been feeling it, it's because you're supposed to feel it. And if we look at our condition and our culture as a people, Many of us, we got some nice clothes, but when we look at what we have in our bank accounts, when we can't make $500, $600, $700, $1,500 investments in our own mental health, if we don't have insurance, what happens to us? What happens year after year when we say we're going to make a change, but it gets back down to what we don't have? When we look at it, don't we get tired of this? When we look at what happens in the streets to black boys, do we have enough attorneys who are invested in the system and respected in the system to show up not alone in a courtroom, but to show up with other people who are in business to say, we will withdraw our business from you if you continue to treat our community like that? Because guess what? Everybody else does it except for black, brown, and poor white people. Oh yeah. It's deep when a woman stands up and takes permission to be healed, to be free, to be authentic. It will upset the apple cart in your household first. It will upset the apple cart in your family. And yes, you will feel the SheMotions of not being a good girl anymore. No longer conforming to the lies that are told in the family. It doesn't mean that you have to walk around being a revolutionary. It doesn't mean you have to be judging them the way that they judged other people with the quote unquote good book. It doesn't mean that you now have to take on the same demeanor as them. But when you no longer participate in gossip, when you no longer continue to affirm the things that your mother affirmed that did not work for her, so it does not work for you. When you no longer have to look to perform under the standard of having a daddy or not having a daddy, or having a daddy that was emotionally unavailable, so you chose emotionally unavailable men because you're still trying to get the love that you didn't get from your daddy. Come on now. If you are working in a job that you really didn't have the passion for, but you would have been on survival mode because you had to take care of yourself, you couldn't rely on anybody. Do we still have the feeling of being alone when it's time for us to show up and lean in? When it's time for us to lean in on the community, can you trust? When it's time for you to lean into your coach, your mentor, your trainer, the elder, if you have one, if you even trust yourself enough beyond your late night conversations with your girlfriend, because your girlfriend is not necessarily the one more than a sounding board. Unless you are in a tribe of women growing forth in goddess, like many of you in Good Girls Gone Goddess, then many times we are just replicating and duplicating the pathologies that we have become comfortable with. And I'm telling you, it's easy for me to go back down the road of the black sheep story in my own family. But I had to say to myself today, baby, you done gave yourself a whole lot of animalistic titles. First, you believed you was the black sheep and you let that go. Then you became the butterfly and you're spreading your wings. But now sometimes you need to remember that you are a unicorn. And you're going to love my meme that I'm going to post on my personal page about the butterfly kitten unicorn. Because sometimes we will be like a stranger in our own land. But look, the Bible says a prophet is without honor in its own land. And this is why it says in the Bible when Jesus says it's expedient for you. It's expedient for you that I go away. Sunday, I already talked about this. Why do we have such a problem leaving people behind when in order for the sperm to fertilize the egg, it had to leave another several billion other sperm behind just to fertilize the egg, just to get here? Through a hostile environment. The womb is a hostile environment because it protects whatever comes into it. even sperm. And that's why women must have foreplay. But then we start getting into a juicy spiritual conversation now when y'all got to sign up for the Juicy You coming up in January. The blueprint is all around us. So I encourage you as a feminine woman, as a woman that's growing forth in Goddess or curious about growing forth in Goddess, is to pay attention to the SheMotions. What is yours? What is theirs? And if you're having a little trouble, I've shared mine and I will share with you again. I'm happy to have some individual conversations with you if this is a heavy topic and you need a private space. But on the third Thursday in the masterclass series, The Power of the P, we will be going into our manifestation level for our P power beyond our man, our mother, and our money. So I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sign up at bit.ly/MyGspot. The link is above right here. If you made any comments, Facebook did a thing today where I cannot see them, and I will come back and type in any responses or just to acknowledge you. Thank you all for joining and hanging out with me as long as you did. I really do want to make them shorter, but some of these things are just have to be released the way they need to be released, especially with the setup that we're using here. So again, I will see you on the other side. Please join us in the masterclass series, bit.ly/MyGspot.